Sometimes we need to almost give ourselves permission to guard our time and to not let any person come into our life and just pull us away to do this or pull us away to do that or put this request or this time demand on us. And, it can be easy to feel like you owe that to everyone. And I think, maybe even just being a mother, being a wife, it can be even easier to feel like we don't really own our time. Like our time is everybody else's.
You're watching Developing Potential with Diana Keuilian.
Hi friends, welcome back. Today we're talking about how to live a life of purpose. And really, as we journey towards self-development, it's so important that we continuously push ourselves towards goals and towards, really just the next evolution of ourselves. And that takes effort, right? We are doing the opposite of just watching time go by, watching ourselves get older, but not really making any progress towards our goals. So how do we live a life of purpose where our efforts are channeled in a really positive direction and we reap the benefit of that? And so I have 7 habits for you that we're going to go through today that really are habits that will help put you on a track towards developing into the version of yourself that you're excited about, right? Whether that be changing your health and fitness or your education, right? Opening up your mind to new information and a new experience of life, or whether this be about your career, right? So many people have these creative aspirations that they kind of have them when they're younger and they kind of protect them and they still hold on to them a little bit. This dream that one day I'm going to do this. One day I'm going to accomplish that. And what happens to those dreams as the years tick by and time continues to march on? What are we doing to bring these dreams and aspirations into fruition in real life, right? And how do we live in a way where we keep the dreams alive and we keep this, this fire and this urgency to keep pushing ourselves? How do we keep it alive so that we avoid, getting into a slump or getting into a mundane existence where there's really nothing that's exciting us anymore, or we can't see a future for ourselves that's any different than our current life? And so there are 7 habits that we're going to go over that when we really live these habits and we make them part of how we exist, it's impossible not to make progress and strides towards growth. This is really about growth, right? We talk about, living with purpose because we want to grow. We don't want to stay the same, or we don't want to start, almost even degenerating from where we are today. We don't want to just maintain and we don't want to go backwards. We want to grow and push forwards. So, first step here and the first habit towards living a life of purpose and not getting sidetracked is to identify your values and your priorities. And this is such a big first step because it sets the big scene for what matters to you, right? What's important to you. If you are at the end of your life, looking back, what do you want to spend your time on? And what do you want to grow in your life? And it's different for everyone, right? We all have different values that we carry, and these translate into different priorities. So I know for me, my family, my kids, my spouse are a huge priority and value for me. And on the other side, I have career aspirations, and there's books I need to write, and there's all these things that I want to accomplish with my mind. And sometimes it can seem like they're very different priorities, right? Like nurturing and growing a family, pouring into relationships versus going out and pursuing academics, pursuing goals and projects and being out working. They're two different things, right? And so for me, when I look at my big global, like what are my values, what are my priorities, I almost have like these two different categories. They're both important to me. But at the end of the day, for me, and it's different for everyone, my relationship category is always a little more important than my career category. And that's just how, I'm tuned in enough to knowing my priorities. And I know this about myself. And so because I know this about myself, it changes some of my timelines, right? And those of you who are parents and who are maybe resonating with what I'm saying about, prioritizing nurturing a family and pouring into those connections with your kids, it changes the timeline of some of the things that I will still do career-wise and academic-wise because I want to be there and spend time while my kids are still at home. So that's the first thing. Like, what are my values? What are my priorities? Like when it's all said and done and I'm on my deathbed at the end of my life and I'm looking back, what was important to me? And then did I focus my purpose on the things that really mattered? Because we can live a life of purpose doing things that like ultimately we don't care about. But that's not really what we're looking for, right? We're looking to have this purpose and this trajectory towards growth while investing in the things that really matter. Because that's fulfillment and that's like meaning. So the next thing is really to look at big picture goals. And so for me personally right now, I've had my academic goals where I'm getting my master's degree, then I'm getting my license. And then after that, I've got this other goal of getting my doctorate degree. And ultimately, I've got like multiple book ideas that I want to put out. And so I have like these big goals, right? And for yourself, I'm sure you also have these like big goals in your mind. And so that's really step 2, is that once we've identified priorities and values, we've translated this into some big, longer term goals. And then the third step is creating weekly and daily to-do lists. And so this is really simple. Like once you've kind of like created the big target, slightly smaller targets, and now you're just like listing out. And I don't know how I could exist or live without to-do lists, because this is literally how I live my life. And what I have is for the week, it's like here's the big things that have to get done, and then translating that to the day-to-day. So today, on Thursday, what are the things that need to get done, right? Here's the list, check it off. It's very simple when you break it down in this much granular detail. It's almost like impossible to get off track. You almost think of this like when you go bowling and you put in the bumpers, right? Like living your life with these goals and then translating that to like your week and then your day-to-day. It's like putting bumpers in for your life. Like you cannot not hit the target. If you follow this, you will hit the target. And it makes it so simple. Okay, so the fourth thing is really dedicating time towards your values and your priorities. And so, when we do this, we are putting like fuel towards the big picture values and priorities we determined, these goals, and then we've translated these into our to-do lists, our weekly rocks, and then our daily to-do list. And now we're just dedicating time towards it. So like I said, like with the bumpers in, if you follow the things on the list, if you dedicate that time and that energy and that effort towards achieving the things on that list, you will arrive at the destination. You will achieve the goal. It's very simple. Okay, number 5, I think is the hardest thing for most of us. And this is something that can take years to train yourself in, but to guard your time. It is so easy to have an entire day go by and to be like, what did I even do today? Like, what happened? And if we're not like guarding our time, and really, what does this mean? Like guarding your time means being intentional about your time. And so, as I translate my weekly goals into a daily to-do list, very often I will also just put time frames, right? Like a block of time, like from this 12 to 2, I'm going to do this. And from, after 3, when I get home, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I don't make it like super, like I have to follow it minute by minute. But it's more of like, I know in this frame, in this 2-hour window, I've set aside this time to accomplish this thing that's on my weekly list. And I've already trained myself that everything on the weekly list gets done. And if that means that I'm staying up late one night because I didn't guard my time, manage my time, then that's what I do. But guarding your time, as we get better and better at this, at being wise with how we're spending our time, knowing, because we have this perfect clarity on what needs to get done today and what needs to get done this week for us to continuously move towards this big picture goal. It's like there's no guesswork in this, but there is so much discipline, and it's almost like this muscle that you have to build on learning how to guard your time. Sometimes we need to almost give ourselves permission to guard our time and to not let any person come into our life and just pull us away to do this or pull us away to do that or put this request or this time demand on us. And, it can be easy to feel like you owe that to everyone. And I think, maybe even just being a mother, being a wife, it can be even easier to feel like we don't really own our time. Like our time is everybody else's. And in that way, when we learn this concept and this muscle of guarding our time and knowing why we're doing it, we know what the stakes are. We've set our values and priorities and our goals, and we know what we have to get done this week, and we know how much of that needs to get done today. It almost like gives us permission to be more guarded with our time. And that doesn't mean that you don't make time for other people, but you do it with boundaries, right? You do it on your terms, because ultimately everybody's in charge of their own time. As much as we can feel like we're a slave to everything around us or to the calendar or to the phone ringing, like we really can make so much progress in guarding our own time with the intention of making progress and living with purpose and not getting sidetracked. But we have to take that ownership. And there's a certain level of self-esteem that you need to approach this with in order to feel like it's okay to tell people like, hey, I can't do that right now. Like, hey, I hear you. Maybe we can do that on Saturday, but right now I got to finish this, right? And that's a muscle that once you get used to it and you're accustomed to it, and really you're training the people in your life to respect your time, then it gets easier and easier. Okay, the 6th one, and this one, once you do it, you'll be like, how did I ever live differently? But this is turning notifications off and putting your phone on silent. So while sometimes you obviously need to be aware of what's happening with your phone, and so often we can just be responsive, right? Like reactive to all the random things. And so sometimes you might even have your phone set up to like alert you when an email comes in, alert you when something happens on social media, alert you when someone texts you. Like there's so many alerts that we can just get bombarded with that it eats away at our time. And it's so simple because like once you turn it all off, and it doesn't mean that you're not gonna respond to people. It just means that it's gonna be one of your blocks of time. Like after your 2 hours of focusing on getting something done, you check all the notifications, right? You get back to whoever needs to be gotten back to. But it's not allowing this constant bombardment on your attention to happen all day long. Because we talk about, just having time go by and wondering like, why didn't I accomplish anything? How can anyone get anything done if their attention is constantly being pulled away from what they're doing, right? You want to talk about being sidetracked. Having all the notifications on is a giant sidetrack. And so it really just it comes back down to values and priorities. Like, what are the values and priorities for you and the direction that you want your life to go? And when those are so clear and so important to you, it's really simple to turn all of the notifications off on your phone and to get yourself into the habit of, I'm going to check it, at the end of this 2-hour block. And the time spent checking it, when you check it all at once and you're like dedicating yourself to checking things, you do it so much faster, right? You're not transitioning between this and then distraction and then this and then distraction. It's just, hey, that's not part of how I live because I'm a person who lives with purpose and intention and I'm going places, right? I'm making the most out of every day that I have on this earth. So I really hope that you will think about this and think about turning all those notifications off and just checking them a few times a day. It's a gift you give to yourself. It really is. Okay, and then the 7th and final habit for living a life with purpose and not getting sidetracked is to regularly reassess and recalibrate your values and priorities, your big picture goals, and then the way that you're translating that into your weekly and daily goals. And so it's just staying tuned into yourself, right? I mean, over time, as we age and as we change, values and priorities might change as well. And so if you're feeling like you're not motivated in what you're doing, it might be because your big picture goal needs to change, right? It might be that things have shifted inside of you and you need to identify like, what's my value and my priority now in life? And what's a bigger long-term goal that I'm excited about, right? Because if you're not feeling intrinsically like excited about these big goals that you're working towards, then why would you do all the difficult things of dedicating time and cutting out distraction and all of that if what you're working towards doesn't really get you excited? And so taking the time, and for myself, I do love at the beginning of the year to kind of look at big picture stuff. And then every month when I look at like what's going to happen this month, how does that break down week by week? Really just reassessing, like, is this still in line with where I'm headed? Does this still feel right? But taking the time and giving yourself that accountability to really think about it. Right? Like if life is a journey and you're in the driver's seat, look at the map, right? Look at the road. Is this the right road? Where are we going? And taking that time intentionally, because nobody is going to tell you to stop and pull over and do it, right? And I think that's another reason why so many of us can let years and years go by and be like, man, what did I do? Like, what did I do in my 20s? What have I accomplished? Right? Because no one's going to sit you down and say like, hey, you got to start living with more purpose. You have to give that gift to yourself. So I hope this was helpful in really getting you pumped up and motivated to just live with more purpose, to be sidetracked less, and to accomplish really what you want in this self-development journey and in this quest for a really fulfilling and happy life. So thank you for joining me again. I really appreciate every single viewer, and I'm just excited for you that you take time out of your life to listen to content that helps you grow. I think that's such an amazing thing and something I appreciate about each and every one of you. So like, subscribe, and share this with someone else who you think could use it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching Developing Potential with Diana Keuilian.